Namaste, namaskar, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to today's joint press briefing by the Honorable Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Enrique A. Manalo, and Indian Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Subrahmanyam Jaishankar. We will first hear from Secretary Manalo, after which Dr. Jaishankar will deliver his remarks. Secretary Manalo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Excellency Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, External Affairs Ministers of the Republic of India, my dear friends in the media, colleagues in government, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I had an excellent conversation and discussion with External Affairs Minister Jaishankar today. We both affirmed in no uncertain terms our mutual commitment to sustaining the positive momentum of our bilateral relationship, a partnership that has reached unprecedented levels in its scope and depth in recent years. I also took this opportunity to convey personally to Minister Jaishankar the Philippine government's profound appreciation for the Indian Navy's immediate and effective response to the distress call of MV True Confidence, upholding a long-standing and fundamental maritime tradition and ultimately resulting in the safe return of 13 Filipino seafarers. Further noting both our country's significant contributions in merchant shipping, we also explored possible cooperation to ensure the safety of Indian and Filipino seafarers, such as those working on board merchant vessels plying the Red Sea. The Philippines and India are staunch advocates of safety at sea, freedom of navigation, and adherence to international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, as well as the 2016 Arbitral Award on the South China Sea. This was evident during my visit in New Delhi in June last year, and it was evident again during our discussions today, especially on recent actions of China in the West Philippine Sea. Our countries have a shared interest in a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. The Minister and I have decided to accelerate our maritime cooperation with a planned maritime dialogue with India to be held in Manila following the successful Track 2 dialogue in September last year, which confirmed several promising areas for collaboration, especially in marine domain awareness, shipping and seafaring, search and rescue, law enforcement, and environmental protection. With regard to our defense and security cooperation, we see the defense industries of India continuing to play an important role in the AFP modernization program. Other priorities include education and training, as well as research and development in support of the self-reliant defense posture of the Philippines. Development cooperation, agriculture, food security, affordable health care, and infrastructure cooperation remain high in our shared development agenda. We have also taken note of India's significant successes in science and technology, space, and financial technology, particularly on financial inclusivity. We are keen to begin closer cooperation in these areas. On tourism, I conveyed to Minister Jaishankar that the Philippines is prioritizing Indian travelers and in its e-visa system project, which we hope to launch in India in the very near future. We also discussed various mechanisms to facilitate two-way trade, including progress in the negotiations of our bilateral preferential trade agreement, as well as the upgrading of the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. Last year, Philippine exports to India exceeded $1 billion for the first time. While this is undoubtedly good progress, current data indicates that we still have over $500 million of unrealized export potential to India. We also discussed our mutual engagements in other areas, including the non-aligned movement and the United Nations, as well as in other regional fora, and the importance of continuing to cooperate in issues such as climate change and maritime concerns. Clearly, there is much work to be done given the immense potential of Philippine-Indian ties, particularly as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relations and as the Philippines takes over as country coordinator for ASEAN-India relations later this year. With the second visit of Minister Jaishankar to the Philippines, we are sure that India will continue to be an important partner on the other side of the Indo-Pacific. And with this, again, I'd like to thank the External Affairs Minister for returning to our shores, where he will, of course, always be welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Jaishankar, you have the floor.
Thank you. Secretary Manalo, dear friends, it's a pleasure to be back in Manila. As the Secretary told you, we had very good discussions following up on his visit to India in June last year. We also had an opportunity to meet in Kampala earlier this year on the sidelines of the NAM summit. Now, as you all know, India's ties with the Philippines has seen very perceptible growth in recent times. Prime Minister Modi met President Marcos during the India-ASEAN summit in September last year, and I will have the honor to call on the President later this afternoon and look forward to conveying the Prime Minister's greetings and good wishes. Meetings and visits are one indicator of the growing closeness between our two nations, but this is equally visible in a range of domains, starting from trade and investment and extending to health and food security, to education and science and technology, defense and maritime cooperation, etc. Our bilateral trade has crossed the $3 billion level last year, and I'm confident that it will continue to grow. My message in the discussions which Secretary Manalo and I had today was that India, as the fifth largest economy currently, growing at about 7% annually, is preparing to step up its engagement with the Philippines. I welcome what Secretary Manalo communicated in terms of easier visas, more movement, more dialogues, and deeper cooperation. Some of the recent developments in our ties were positively recognized at our meeting. We are moving ahead on quick impact projects in agriculture, health, and capacity building. Indian companies have been active here, as much in the digital infrastructure as in the physical one. There is considerable interest in Indian corporate sector in stepping that up. The growing comfort and trust between us is also reflected in the ongoing supplies of rice from India as an exceptional measure. As two seafaring nations of the Indo-Pacific, our maritime cooperation holds great potential. Last year, we signed agreements on enhanced maritime cooperation and white shipping. It is appropriate that even today, there is an Indian Coast Guard vessel which is making a port call in Manila. Secretary Manalo and I have discussed our shared interests in ensuring maritime safety, given that our two countries contribute so much to the global shipping industry. I also briefed him about the Indian Navy's deployments in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea to counter ongoing threats, and he himself has spoken about the rescue of MV True Confidence by one of our ships, INS Kolkata. And there have been some other instances, I think since then, MV Leela Norfolk as well, which involved some crew from the Philippines. Our partnership with the Philippines also has a larger context in terms of the engagement with the ASEAN. The Philippines will take over as India's country coordinator later this year. We look forward to its steering India-ASEAN cooperation, especially in regard to reviewing the trade agreement, to building connectivity, and to deepening people-to-people contacts. As a nation deeply invested in this region because of its Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision, India follows all developments with great interest. We are strongly supportive of ASEAN's centrality, cohesion, and unity. We are also convinced that the progress and prosperity of this region is best served by staunch adherence to a rules-based order. UNCLOS 1982 is particularly important in that regard as the constitution of the seas. All parties must adhere to it in its entirety, both in letter and in spirit. I take this opportunity to firmly reiterate India's support to the Philippines for upholding its national sovereignty. As the world changes, it is essential that countries like India and the Philippines cooperate more closely to shape the emerging order. Today we discussed a range of global and regional issues, from the UN and the NAM to the Indo-Pacific, to Myanmar, to Ukraine, and beyond that. We are also both societies that contribute significantly to the global workplace. We would like to see more resilient supply chains and trusted digital partnerships. Our activities serve to strengthen the cause of the Global South in different domains. Our commitment to democratic values is deep and abiding. We are both nations who value the autonomy of decision-making and favor a multipolar world with a multipolar Asia at its core. These convergences, based on an expanding bilateral partnership, today drive the upward trajectory of our ties. My discussions today with Secretary Manalo, the meeting later in the day with Defense Secretary Teodoro and others, and the call on President Marcos will all provide opportunities to do that. As we move towards the 75th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations, I am confident that there is much more that awaits us. Thank you for your attention.
Dr. Jaishankar, we now open the floor to some questions. Can I call on Pam Castro of AFE for the first question, please?
Hello, good afternoon. First question for Sir Jaishankar. What's your reaction on the recent tensions between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea? Are there plans to expand your defense cooperation specifically targeted on the South China Sea? And in what way will India, and I quote, play an important role in the AFP modernization program? And for Secretary Manalo, the Philippines' claim on the South China Sea is grounded on the arbitral award, but China said they will never acknowledge the award. So what is in your diplomatic toolbox that can fix this dilemma? And last one, in connection again with the topic of the South China Sea, do Indian companies have existing or planned partnerships amid depleting gas reserves in Malampaya? And what do you think should be the strategy to make South China Sea an area for economic cooperation?
I think in my own statement, I've made 3 points very clear. One, that we regard UNCLOS 1982 as very important. We regard it as the constitution of the seas. Two, we believe that all parties must adhere to it, as I said, in its entirety, both in letter and spirit. And three, we firmly support Philippines in the upholding of its national sovereignty. So I think our position is very, very clear. Now, regarding defense, I would say, you need to look at that cooperation on its own merits. It is not necessarily linked to a particular situation, but it's natural today that two countries whose trust and comfort is growing so rapidly, that we would look at various new areas of cooperation, and certainly defense and security is one of them.
Thank you. On your question regarding the arbitral award, well, China, as you mentioned, has on many occasions said they don't accept the arbitral award. All I can say is that the arbitral award is final and binding. And this has been reaffirmed by the international community. And I think I would probably leave my answer at that regarding the arbitral award. But of course, there are other parts of the international law, which the Philippines is continuing to adhere to, and I understand the rest of the international community is continuing to adhere to, and that is the UNCLOS and the sovereign rights of the exclusive economic zones for each country, which is clearly indicated in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And the Philippines will consistently and always reaffirm the need to abide by international law and also for international rules and regulations when it comes to the maritime area. And this is a message that we have consistently stated. And in fact, just most recently in this incident at the Ayungin Shoal, where China harassed and also prevented our ships from, tried to prevent our ships from resupplying our troops in Ayungin Shoal, we had messages of support from over 20 countries, governments, who clearly stated the importance of adhering to international law. So we are fully supported in that respect. So in answer to your question, we have consistently reasserted our rights in accordance with international law insofar as the issues in the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea are concerned.
Thank you, Secretary and Minister. Jerome Morales, please, of Reuters. The last question.
Good afternoon, Ministers. To both Ministers, my question would be again on the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea. So on the maritime dialogue that was mentioned, what do you plan to achieve with this? What will be the scope? Will there be more cooperation in terms of Coast Guard, maritime exercises, and other conversations happening between Philippines and India on how the latter, how India can participate in Philippine modernization? And also, can you update us on the Philippines, India, and Japan trilateral mechanism? Any timeline, any updates on this agreement, and how important will this trilateral deal contribute to the current situation, particularly in the West Philippine Sea? Thank you.
Would you like to go first? Or?
Please.
Well, you know, we are both important maritime nations. We're not only important maritime nations, I think as the Secretary pointed out, we are at, you know, two ends, in a manner of speaking, of the Indo-Pacific. Not exactly ends, but let's say Philippines is in the middle, we are at one end. It's also a fact that we are two nations who make a very exceptional commitment to global shipping. So every country has an interest in maritime security, in maritime safety. In our case, probably it is more than many other countries normally would have. Now, as our relationship grows, as I pointed out, you know, it's natural to look at defense and security. But it's also equally important we look at other aspects of cooperation. You know, we are both, I think, members of the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative. We are both members of RECAP, which is based in Singapore. We have ourselves started exercises last year for the first time between India, naval exercises between India and the ASEAN. So there's a lot. I mean, this is an area where actually our cooperation has just begun. And what the maritime dialogue is intended to do is actually to explore what more we could do. A good example is this Coast Guard vessel which has come into port in Manila. It's a pollution control vessel. I believe you've had some serious incidents of oil spills and other pollution challenges. So there's a lot of work to be done here. There's environmental work, there's ecological work, there's security work. And, you know, at the end of the day, every country has the right to uphold and enforce its national sovereignty. And I think that is something that we have also discussed.
Thank you. Well, I just have to follow up a bit on what Minister Jaishankar said. First of all, to give the proper context to the question, India and the Philippines have a very deep interest in ensuring a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific Ocean. And it's on this region. And it is in this context that we are having extensive discussions regularly on defense cooperation, security cooperation, mainly also with a view to supporting an international rules-based order. And as if I could just follow up a bit what was said, we have already engaged in a number of training and joint defense committee meetings in order to see where we can bolster our cooperation. We have exchanged views not only in we have exchanged views on regional security developments, as well as various activities in the context of our defense engagement plan. And I understand Minister Jaishankar will also be meeting our defense officials and Coast Guard officials later, and they will be discussing other points of where cooperation might continue. Might continue. Just let me say that our cooperation is growing in the sense that not only are we considering newer activities such as training and joint committee meetings, but also exploring other ways where we can contribute to the security of both our countries, as well as to ensure that the Indo-Pacific region remains open and peaceful and is a region of peace and development. And I think it's in all these areas where we have also agreed to continue discussions through our various committees. So this is going to be an ongoing process as our relations in this area grow stronger and stronger.
Concludes the joint press conference. We thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. We wish the Indian delegation all the best in their meetings in the Philippines. And thank you for joining us. Dynabad, good day. Good day to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, our friends from the press corps. Sofitel will be having their earthquake drill at 2:30 p.m., so we have to leave soon. Thank you.